8:30. Campaigners say a site in West Belfast could help alleviate the city's housing crisis. They're backing a new design which would allow 900 homes to be built on the 25-acre site off the old Mackie's factory off the Springfield Road. The plans are to be put to Belfast City Council, which had previously approved plans for a community greenway on the 25-acre site, and building on that has already begun.
Well, last week, the chief executive of the Northern Ireland Housing Executive told us that it would be virtually impossible to provide services to prevent homelessness if proposed cuts to its budget go ahead. Do you remember Gráinne Long was saying that their allocation's around £75 million short of what they'd asked for, and the impact will again be felt by those most in need?
Whether it's 36,000 households on the waiting list waiting for homes, whether it's people who are homeless or at risk of homelessness, people who need support to live independently in the community, so people with disabilities, older people, and a range of other households, including people who are suffering the impact of the energy crisis, so who need grants, for example, replacement, affordable warmth. So the impact is across all of those groups, and it will be felt in services. Probably the areas we are really deeply concerned about is homelessness, because of the knock-on effects and also the scale of demand, as I've said before in this programme, is unprecedented completely in my career.
Well, campaigners are arguing for new homes on the Mackie site, and they claim that a new design would allow for both houses and for the Greenway. It was a brainchild of London-based architect Matthew Lloyd, whose plan was chosen in international competition. He is in the studio with me. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Along with the Take Back the City Coalition campaigner Marissa McMahon. Morning to you as well. Listen, just give us an idea of where we're at the moment, because there'll be a lot of people listening to this and thinking to themselves, was this not all settled? We've had several times, haven't we, with campaigners trying to block this from becoming a greenway and try and get houses built. Where does it stand at the moment, Marissa?
Can I just say, there was never any terms of a blockage of a greenway. Campaigners have always said, and certainly Take Back the City campaigners have always said, that greenways are needed and are fantastic, but it's a massive, massive site, and there's any amount of room for a greenway, plus homes, plus shops, plus parks, plus, other infrastructure. So they aren't giving up, and they aren't. And Matthew certainly has come on board and also isn't willing to let all this land literally go to waste, is what has been happening now for decades.
But, I mean, previously you've had several attempts, haven't you, at trying to say, listen, let's get houses on this land, and the council has been batting these back. Indeed,
yes. We've been at various council meetings at least 3 times that I can recall, in that proposals and the campaigners have asked in terms of housing on the site, and it has been rejected and just voted through as a greenway. So that was previously, and I know that they've given a statement saying that they haven't seen other plans, and at the time there wasn't the plan like Matthew's, when we were a council, but things have obviously changed.
So Matthew, what is different about your proposal? What do you think makes a difference with what you're putting forward here?
We were asked to look at the whole site in the competition, and we did. It's a big site. It's 13 hectares actually from one side to the other. So where the greenway sits is only a piece of it. And in having the opportunity to look at the whole site, we spread homes theoretically across everything. So the greenway actually sits on the right type of land in terms of current ownership, put it like that, public ownership. And, walking over it yesterday, it's nearly built. It's pretty lovely. It's effectively a park, a long park. And it's slightly moved the goalposts, actually, the greenway. Now it's built. But there's a lot of land there. And we will start thinking about it in the context of the greenway.
What do you mean in terms of moving the goalposts? Because just to make clear, the council say they're in the process of completing work on the Fourth Meadow Community Greenway, which runs through the former Mackie site. Yes. They also say that if the council receives a formal planning application for the remainder of their site, that the planning committee will consider this as it would any other planning application. But is that a bit of an indication that actually you've looked at it, you came up with a plan, and maybe things have shifted a little bit here?
I don't think they've shifted. I think the majority of the Mackie site is like a flat basin where the Mackie's factory used to sit. And that's actually where, anyway, we are going to put most of this housing. So I think the Greenway has, the campaign about the Greenway, which I've kind of only recently come to, is fascinating. It's also interestingly locked off in a good way other pieces of land. So I'm quite optimistic actually about it all. The key issue here will be the main Mackie site, which is zoned at the moment for industry and needs to be zoned for a mixture of uses. And when that happens, we will then be able to do a lovely, big, mixed use, in my view, majority housing scheme.
The biggest issue, I suppose, about any housing scheme, though, is in simple terms, Marissa, getting the money for it. You know where we are in terms of budgets. And the idea of houses there is one thing. Actually finding the cash to do it, that's quite another.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're in unprecedented times and there's cuts right across the board, and we see that in health and education. But if we're being brutally honest, there's something seriously wrong with our society. There's something seriously broken if we have over 4,000 children as of January this year, and that's the department statistics, considered homeless. So something hasn't been working for a very long time, and it's time that we tried something new. And I mean,
the point though is about getting the cash. And I mean, you heard Sarah talking to Grania Long last week, you know, from the housing executive, saying, listen, actually the reality is we are £75 million short of what we need, of what we've actually asked for. Building new houses, it is an expensive business. Is there a way round that? Have you had conversations with other people to see where money can be found for that?
I mean, houses are being built all the time to be bought. So there's contractors and there's developers and there's people who are, you know what I mean? So and I'm not an economist and I don't know how it works, but what I do know is that it has worked in the past. I understand there's a massive shortfall in the budget now, but what's happened the previous 20 odd years, has it been the same? No. And, you know, the waiting list still rises, so I'm sure that there is ways, and I know there's different housing models and different ways. We spoke about that, Matthew, like homes to be rented and bought and co-ownership and all those types of things, and cooperative housing. I mean, there is models out there, and I just think we're just really stuck in doing what we've always done here. I think it's time to try something new.
It's a simple problem though, isn't it, Matthew? Particularly when you're talking about social housing, actually getting the money for it.
Yeah, I think we've got to move away from the idea that all of these homes will be what we would call council houses. Straightforward, old-fashioned, 100% grant. You know, the government gives 100% of the money. It's not like that anymore. We need to look at a mixed tenure model, which is some private, some shared ownership, and as much affordable housing as we can make. That's the most important thing. It's the piece at the bottom, or if you like, the top, which is the affordable housing, which is important. You've also got to make a very attractive place so that people will come and buy homes as well as rent them cheaply. So there's a mix in housing, and there has been for a long time. I think there's always been a stretch for money in housing. I've never known it to be any differently. And the other thing about this project is it will take a few years to do. I mean, you know, we may have a change in the available money. The one thing I absolutely know, wherever I go, and it's absolutely evident here, is you have to have a home. A home is the most central thing for anybody. If you've got nowhere to go at night or no place to be, that's the start of society. Do you know what I mean? So we'll get there. It's essential. That's really what I'm trying to say.
Matthew Lloyd, Marissa McMahon, thank you both very much indeed for joining us in the studio. Should say that Lindsay Telford is going to have more of the story on BBC Newsline tonight. She'll be with you at 6:30 on BBC One, and you can read more about it on our website as well. The conversation, the debate continues. bbc.co.uk/newsni. It's exactly